Let's talk about the highest and lowest paying college degrees.
Yeah, Brian, I feel like this is a question we get all the time. Folks want to know, hey, if I'm trying to, if I'm in college or if I have kids that are going to be college age, which way should I push them? Because frankly, and I don't know that it was ever meant to be this way, it is getting to the point now to where a higher education, an advanced degree, may be the most expensive thing that you purchase in your entire life.
Yeah, that's why I kind of wanted to take a macro approach discussion to this. I know we talked about the college degrees, and we're going to get to the best, according to the research, on the ones that make it easiest to pay off the student loan debt, as well as the ones that might be a struggle. But this is actually what led to this show, is that if you ask me, I am so excited for the long-term prospects. You've heard me talk about exponential growth, exponential innovation, the returns that should come from what's going on in society. That stuff gets me excited.
Yep.
But then if you said, flip the coin and tell me now the things that scare you, and I get worried for our younger folks in this unbearable student loans. Because look, I went to college in the I'm about to say the 20s, in the 1990s, early 1990s, and at the time, it was the credit card. The banks were pushing the credit cards, and the fact that you could go get for a bag of potato chips, they'd sign you up
for a brand new
credit card. And we realized in banking that was horrible. We were preying upon these young people, so they came and they swept them out. But what I find interesting is that we swept out the credit card sales pitches for potato chips, but we have empowered student loans where I think it's just as easy as getting that bag of potato chips to get a student loan.
Absolutely.
And we tell the students, this is going to be great for you.
You're investing in yourself.
And by the way, and I hate getting on my soapbox, but somehow the institutions have never been held accountable because I love University of Georgia.
Sure.
But we did the study because you are about 12 years younger than me.
Yep.
FTE Daniel is about 11 years, I think, younger than you. So there's a 23-year gap between there. All went to University of Georgia. We calculated it was a compounding 7%
That's right.
per year tuition increase from when I was in school in the early 90s to when you guys, all the way up to Daniel. That's crazy. I mean, because inflation wasn't 7% per year.
And here's what I think is so interesting. It's hard enough when we start out, we get out of college, and it's hard enough just starting at zero. It is difficult enough starting your financial life at zero to begin building and having bills and paying for your expenses and accumulating and saving. If it's really hard starting at zero, how much more difficult is it when you start negative? You saw this in the 90s with credit cards, and we've seen it recently with student loans. It is a huge hill to overcome.
Well, and look, that's why I wanted to talk about, we talk about your return on investment for your college degree. I don't panic for somebody who comes out with student loan debt of $20,000, $25,000, especially if you're going to make $40,000, $50,000 out of school. What panics me is when I find out people have close to 6 figures of debt and they're in a profession that will they ever get out of that debt? And shame on the institution for there ought to be truth in lending for when you sign up for each student loan. And that's the part that I wanted to kind of spend a little time on is first, how big of a problem is this? And of course, FTE Daniel loaded us up with some great research.
Yeah, because we have a lot of young folks that listen to the show, and they're thinking, guys, what are y'all talking about? Student loans have kind of it's always been a thing. It's always been this way. That's not actually the case. Yeah. FTE Daniel went and found total U.S. student loan debt just since 2006. So this is in like the last 15 years. And this is what I think is remarkable. As of the second quarter of 2020, total outstanding U.S. student loan debt is over 1.6 trillion with a T dollars.
Yeah, I was very thankful that in the show notes that Daniel put that it was trillion because I found myself, it's like thousands, millions, billions, trillion. So, I mean, that number's huge. And by the way, that is a very steady walk up. That's not. That's a ramp. That's not even a mountain. You know how I talk about investing. You're taking the yo-yo as you walk up the mountain. student loan debt has not been a mountain. It's been a ramp with a very high degree of elevation on it. And that bothers me. So I wanted to kind of think about what's the 7 habits of highly effective people.
Sure.
When we talk about that, one of the steps is begin with the end in mind.
That's exactly right.
And I wanted to kind of, let's first talk about, according to the research, the majors that could get you in trouble. These are the majors that would probably have a lot of trouble paying back. And then we'll flip the script and talk about historically and through the research what majors actually are great for getting a job as well as being able to pay the student loan debt back.
Now, look, we're just the mouthpiece, right? So this research is not from us. So if you see your major listed here, we're not picking on you. It's just as you think about what you encourage your kids to do and you think about paying off student loan debts, you ought to be aware of this. And according to the Brookings Institution's Hamilton Project, these are the worst college majors based on expected earnings and then the difficulty of paying them off. So if you're out there listening in iTunes, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, any of those places, here are the majors: drama, theater, health and physical education, civilization, ethnic studies, composition, which that's writing, right?
Yep.
Composition, speech, fine arts, nutrition, and fitness. If those are one of the majors that you're pursuing, and you are accumulating significant student loan debt to do that, your path may be a little bit harder than your counterparts who picked a different major or folks in the same industry that accumulated less student loan debt to achieve that degree.
I thought it was interesting when I saw this list when we compiled it. Physical education is actually what my dad's college degree
Was it really?
I realized he was a student athlete,
Yep.
Down at the University of Florida. He was an offensive tackle down there, and and this is what he chose. And physical education got him essentially a career of being a wine and spirits salesman.
So he didn't actually he wasn't
I don't
actually
know that
in
he
the
needed
physical
a college
education.
degree to do that. I mean, so I think it's interesting. And then I was always a drama kid in high school.
Yep.
Loved it. Took some drama classes actually at UGA.
And look at how well that played out for you here
I
on
mean,
the
I think it does
Money
play out
Guy
for
show.
this, but it is one of those things where you look at it and you think that's probably also, yes, you can learn something there, but making a career
Sure.
through running up a lot of student loan debt could.
Yep.
I mean, we all want to be Brad Pitt.
Not all of us get
I don't know
to
that
be
Brad Pitt. I'd like to know how much student loan debt Brad Pitt ran up. I think there was just some good genetics there.
I think it worked out well for him.
So this is, and by the way, some of this, all these majors, this is another thing I thought was interesting. Some of this looks fun. Mm-hmm. We talk
absolutely.
about college. I mean, drama theater, that is so much more fun than my accounting degree. I mean, you think about physical education and nutrition, fitness. Bo, I know for a fact, you told me if you could make a living working out, you would do it.
100%. If I didn't have to pay the bills and provide for my family, I would just work out every day. It'd be what I do in my time.
So, and I guess being a guy who got into podcasting in 2006, speech could have potentially.
Yeah,
but
there we go.
It's just one of those things. I think practice is what has led to it. So let's flip the script. Let's talk about what degrees typically are very good, have a great return on investment, pay off student loan debt very easily, and actually give you great career prospects for the long term.
Now, again, we're not stacking the deck here. This is from the Brookings Institution's Hamilton Project, and this is what they said were the best college majors in terms of satisfying student loan debt and earning potential. They said engineering, nursing, operations and logistics, computer science, finance, economics, construction services, special needs education, and then last but certainly not least, accounting and actuarial science.
Did any one of these degrees kind of shock you?
Construction services was the one that stuck out to me a little bit that seemed not like the others. I wasn't expecting that one.
Well, but it makes sense. I mean, every city you go to, big city,
Sure.
usually you see cranes.
Yeah.
And I had a buddy who went to Auburn University, and he was a construction services guy. Got hired by them. Now he runs like an entire large school systems construction.
So I guess in my
plan.
mind, I would think like civil engineering, but I guess that construction services is different than engineering.
Well,
That's
think
hard-
about all these. When you see a skyrise, architects, yes, designed it.
Sure.
But there's got to be somebody who's like the superintendent on this huge build project. They probably came from something like a construction services, engineering.
Makes sense.
It's kind of amazing. So I did think, engineering, computer science,
Sure.
finance. Look, I have two daughters. Math and science
It's not a bad
are
place
your
to go.
friends. I mean, and I hate to sound so nerdy, but do you not look at this list? And
There's a lot of math and science
There's
on
a
there.
lot of math and science. And then special needs education, having an autistic daughter,
Sure.
I also know that there is a tremendous demand for the person who has the right heart, the right desire
Sure.
to and patience to deal with that. So I think we can come back to this 10 years from now, and these majors will still be really good.
So you may be hearing this, but guys, okay, why are you talking about this? Why does this matter? Well, the reason this matters is that we already said kind of lead up, college for most folks, or for a lot of folks, might be the most expensive thing that you ever buy. Your education may be the most expensive thing that you ever spend money on. So we thought it would be worthwhile to show you how much does college cost. And again, full-time equivalent Daniel put this together for us, and I thought this was wonderful. This is all data from College Board, and we broke it down across 4 different types: community college, a public university if you get in-state tuition, a public university if you get out-of-state tuition, and then private colleges.
And guys, this was kind of crazy to me too, is because the difference, not only do you have a decision, think about college as a gauntlet of choices. Just like I said, we ran off the potato chip credit cards,
Right.
but we made it where student loans were as easy as a signature, and you strapped you with this for between 10 to 25 years, depending upon which student loan structure you go with, that you're going to be paying on this stuff. Pay attention to some of these decisions. Your major. And then this is where are you going to go? Man, look, we've always done a good job of talking about in-state colleges, because I think there's a lot of success points there. We've talked on that, but you guys started whispering on air, talk about community college.
Yeah, sure.
Talk about, and when you see that the total cost for community college, including room and board, which is the lion's share of it, is $13,000 a year. Guys, you can work and still go to college.
Yeah, you could actually, when you hear people talk about putting themselves through school at a $13,000 a year total cost, you could do that. You could have a job, whatever that job is, and pay for your school. Whereas if you're going to go to a private institution and you're going to pay that tuition plus room and board, you're talking about $50,000 a year on average for private schools. Now, this is what I think is interesting. We have a lot of clients say this to us. Now I can't remember because yours, the paper is turning yellow and the stickers are falling off. But on your diploma from the University of Georgia, the finest in all the land, does it say how many semesters that you were at Georgia, or does it just say that you graduated from Georgia?
But I'm so old, it was quarters back then.
Oh
It
my
wasn't
gosh,
we
it was
didn't
not
even have
even
semesters
semesters.
back
They even
then. It
changed
was
the
quarters.
system on us.
They changed the metric for how you even go to school. But it is so true. Every one of my friends that I met in my major, junior, senior year that transitioned from a community college, their diplomas look exactly
same degree.
like mine.
Yep.
They're still University of Georgia grads. It's just their first 2 years. By the way, Georgia was a steal when I was there.
Back then, yeah, for
but,
sure.
Community college might have been free back then, because it's just, if you look at how much college costs have gone up. So pay attention to the where and when also, because Bo's exactly right. Maybe if it's you still want to graduate from Notre Dame, or you still want to graduate from University of Georgia, there's a path probably there that might be more cost effective.
Absolutely.
So pay attention and get creative, because I think there's nothing wrong with having the goal of education. Because I always say that education is the ladder of opportunity. Both of us don't come from money.
That's right.
But because we were good students, and you were a student athlete also in college, it created opportunities for us to kind of lift ourselves out. Don't turn that positive thing, because I do think education is essential, but don't turn that positive into a negative by turning compounding interest against you by being sold something, even by the institution that's going to give you the opportunity out, because we've seen that it's kind of been corrupted in the fact that if you can increase cost of tuition 7% a year, come up with more creative degrees that don't necessarily create more opportunity for you in life, but make it seem really exciting and sizzly for you to sign up for it, that's not in your best interest. There really ought to be a truth in education disclosure to let you work through some of these decision points.
Now, what I love about this show, right, is I have this live chat going right now, and I can see all of you guys communicating and talking to us. This is not something we even talked about in pre-show prep. So I'm actually going to use our segue into questions to talk about a question I see that's continued to come up in here, right? And I think this is a great question that doesn't get talked about often enough. Is college a necessity? Must someone go to the University of Georgia or Notre Dame or a community college that's the traditional path in order to be financially successful, in order to have achievement in life? College a necessity? Must someone go to
This is the great thing of being live.
I'm gonna turn this down real quick. Hey, tell them a joke while I'm doing this.
Well, I mean, I'll jump in and think about, one of the great things about being an accounting major is I worked on a lot of small businesses. There's a lot of service providers. I'm talking about heat and air repair. I'm talking about exterminators like bug services. I'm talking about, you don't have to have a college degree to be extremely successful. And truthfully, if you looked at return on investment for going to a trade school, there's a lot of people. I've often told the story. I have a buddy named Adam that I grew up with. And I think what's funny is I've recently reconnected with Adam. I was trading texts with him because he's a big Auburn fan.
Right.
I'm a big Georgia fan. When we were trading texts,
Saw how
I
that
always
went.
tell the story that I was a great student all through school. Adam, my neighbor down the street, not a great student. Matter of
Sure.
fact, even had some got held back a few times. I think he had a learning disability.
Sure.
It was probably just back in the 70s and 80s, they didn't diagnose those things the
Right.
way we do now. I graduated from University of Georgia. My first job at a public accounting firm paid me $28,000 a year. Adam was making over $100,000 a year selling tractors.
Without a college degree, without a diploma.
No, he's just the most likable
I love
person you will ever meet. And his skill set was obviously not academically. He still, if you hang out with this guy, you love him because he's just got that type of personality.
Yep.
He's a natural salesman. And that's why in early 20s, I'm making $28,000 a year with all my education, all my public account, going and working for a public accounting firm. Adam making six figures because he's selling tractors.
And I mean, we see this with a number of our clients. I mean, obviously, in our day job, we're fee-only financial planners. We work with high net worth families and individuals all over the country. A lot of them, they didn't go off and get a college degree, but they started working. They got 10,000 hours of experience, and they went and started a business that became entrepreneurs. I was talking with a prospect the other day, and it was wild to me. He did not go to college, but when he was in the third grade, his father put him in a programming class. And by the way, he said he felt like he was way behind learning how to code and program because there were kids that he knew that started when they were like 4 or 5 years old.
Yeah.
I just taught my kid how to ride a bike last night. So programming is way off the radar for us. But because he developed that skill set so early on, instead of going the college track, he got a job, doing the things that coders do, programming, right? And then he started a business. Now he has a wildly successful global business without a college degree because he picked a skill set that was very marketable and became an expert at that. He became incredibly good at doing that thing. I feel like we hear that story over and over and over and over again. That's not to say that you should encourage your children not to go to college, but you started this whole thing with the habits of highly effective people. Begin with the end in mind. What's the thing that you want to achieve? What's the thing that you want to do? What's the thing that you want to accomplish? A traditional four-year university might not be the thing that's required to get you there. It may be going to a trade school, getting special licensure, turning into an expert, or whatever that thing may be. You need to understand what path you want it to be and figure out what steps you need to take to get there.
And take inventory of what your skill set is. I mean, I think I truly believe, I've heard you guys have heard me share this. I got this actually from a podcast listener who turned into a podcast client who had very successful adult children. And that's a very key indicator, Millionaire Next Door, is how successful are your adult children. And I asked him, I said, how in the world are all of your kids? Some went to college, some did not go to college. They're all just incredibly good. He said, find out what you are top 5% in the world at, what skill sets you have, pursue it. Because he says, if you're a beautician, there's a reason when you hear those stories about the politician getting the $400 haircut.
Right, yeah.
That there's a person on the other end of those
getting that
scissors that's
$400.
obviously really good at their job. So focus on what your skill set. I always knew I was good at math. I was good at logistics. I don't think I'm the smartest guy, but I do think I have great field vision. Accounting seemed like the perfect opportunity, and then that led to finance It was just, begin with the end in mind. And if you don't have that, just try to at least spot check and focus on math, science, what's going to give you the greatest opportunity for success.
Now, one more word of caution, then I promise we're going to jump in and answer all your questions. I have a lot of friends who, they didn't know the end. They did not know the thing that they wanted to do, the thing they wanted to become. So their default was doing more school and accumulating more debt.
That's a great point.
I don't know that that's what I'd recommend, especially if you have a student and they're like, okay, well, I just got my degree in business management, but I don't know what I want to do, so I'm going to take a gap year, I'm going to go backpack Europe, and then I'm going to get my master's degree. If you don't have a purpose behind why you're doing those things, you might not recognize how much you're saddling yourself up with debt that you may not actually need.
Well, also 88 times over.
That's right.
Everybody gets so excited for doctors because we know when they come out of medical school and they get through their residency that they're probably making six figures. The problem? Their late 20s, maybe even early 30s. Their friend, like myself, who graduated making $28,000, we've had 8 years to start saving money, to start getting promotions. That army of dollar bills is building. I mean, I know we all look up to doctors because of their great income, but realize they usually come out with six figures of student loan debt, and they're also 8 years behind their peers on savings. Pay attention to those things, guys. I mean, that stuff really does. That's why I always say that the grass always looks greener, but you need to kind of self-internalize and figure out, what do I have working for me? What's my skill sets? What can I do and what can I control, and begin with the end in mind. Guys, use all that. You're going to have a plan of action that will make you successful in the long term.
All right, you want to answer some questions?
Let's do it.
All right, here's the first question. This is from Stitch Aru once, and this is all he said. And I'm going to let you talk about this for a second. He said, I'ma need a better look at Brian's Baby Yoda mug. Because you've just had it sitting there. You haven't mentioned anything about it. Why don't you go ahead, show the people your newest toy that you're so proud of?
Well, see, this is the thing. I was supposed to.
Hold it up.
I was supposed to go to Disney this week.
Right.
Well, actually last week and this week. I have an autistic daughter. She can't do the mask. And I realized that Disney is, this pandemic is unique times. So sent my oldest daughter and my wife. They went and did the vacation. I stayed back with Emery. We did pumpkin patches.
I love
Had
it.
a lot of pumpkin pie.
She had so
a
much
good
fun,
time.
didn't she?
But this is what my wife and daughter brought back. And I'm kind of glad, because I was worried they were going to bring me back like a lightsaber. They were going to do that.
Because what are you going to do with that?
No, well, I want a lightsaber, but I want to do the experience. I want to do it. I want to do the experience.
Well, of course, you're a grown man. You're a functioning adult. Surely you wouldn't want a lightsaber. No, I want a lightsaber.
Just like if you've ever seen the Harry Potter experience they do on the wand ceremony.
Yeah.
I kind of want to do that on the Star Wars side, but I wanted to actually do it. So I thought this was a solid add-in from the family. So, I put Fed away for a show. You're making fun of. You don't know if this.
I'm curious to see you drink out of it for the first time.
Going to be easy.
Because it's like it goes in. I don't know. We'll see if you spill it on yourself first time you drink out of it. But it's a cool mug. If you're into that sort of thing, I love it.
Baby Yoda.
Baby Yoda.
Who doesn't love Baby Yoda?
Everybody loves Baby Yoda. All right, let's ask another question. Okay, this is a great one. This is from Taylor.
That wasn't a real question.
It was a real question. Look, what the people want, the people get. This is from Taylor. At what age would you say the opportunity cost of going back to college to pursue a different degree or an advanced degree really is not cost effective in the long run? That's a really interesting question. I'm going to tell you two stories about two folks that we know. The first person was very successful in the military, and then they went into the medical field, and they were a specialist in the medical field and worked their entire career in the medical field. And they loved it, and they were very successful at that and did a lot of great work. And like, you know what? I think I want to get out of medicine, and I have this passion for personal finance. I want to become a financial advisor. So even though this person was at the financial independence point, they decided they didn't want to retire and go sit on the beach. They wanted to retire and go into financial planning. So rather than having to go back to a traditional four-year university, there are programs where you can go get the necessary education requirement. You can satisfy the estate planning and insurance planning and investment planning to be able to sit for the professional exam, the CFP exam, pass the exam, and then you can pursue that career. So this person was able to make a career shift without having to go back to go do a different type of degree or go accumulating the debt or pay for tuition and room and board and stuff, even though he was at the financial independence point. So there are ways that you can pursue that and the ways you can shift even later in life without thinking about going back to school.
So I'm going to summarize. You basically, because we've had several people come to us that were successful in one career, they've essentially retired two, or taken. It's not really it's like you hear about the FIRE movement.
Sure.
Financial independence, retire early. But these two people we're talking about didn't actually retire. They used financial independence points to transition into a different career field.
Right.
I also think there's because this is going to blow up the fact that I don't think there's one answer. I think it's more of, because I will tell you guys, I want you, if you're going to make a jump, like Bo, I do think there does come a point where you have a spouse, you have dependents, and if
Mortgage,
especially and
all
everybody's
that
relying
stuff,
on your income, because I think there's a lot of people. We see it with doctors, we see it with others that they're driven, they get into these career fields, and they realize after what the heck am I doing? You know, everybody told me how great this would be. I've gone on this journey. Now I'm kind of here. I have no problem, because we know quite a few financial advisors that were medical doctors. We know people who are engineers. We know people, heck, I'm an accountant that is now doing, that reformed into financial planning. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just make sure that you have a plan of action. It's like anybody who starts a business, anybody who takes a career change, I want you to come up with 3 scenarios. I want you to come up with worst case. I want you to come up with, oh my God, I'm going to be rich. And then I want you to come up with what you think is going to happen, and then create a 3-year path of what that looks like. Because 3 years is going to be how long it takes sometimes to get traction on those ideas. And that way, a person who's, maybe you're in your 20s, you haven't bought the farm because maybe you don't even have a spouse, maybe you don't have kids, but you're looking at your life and you're taking inventory and go, there's got to be more. Because one of our bigger clients went, I believe they got coding education from a community college at night. He's going to watch this, and obviously it turned in a tremendous
turned out well for him,
thing. So I mean, there's nothing wrong with looking and taking inventory of your situation and going, I've got to make a change. But there are going to be others that look at it and go, I can't leave right now. I've got too many people counting on me. But what's my path so that maybe I can retire too in my 40s or 50s into this new career? And I think you can do that.
Absolutely.
I mean, so there's multiple paths there, and I still think about all of our service providers that are multimillionaires that started businesses, because it is whether your path to success can either come through education, it can come through skill, it can come from risk. You have to figure out which one fits your skill set, and then go make the jump and figure out the path.
And I think if you are that person deciding, maybe it's not I want to go do something and get a different degree, but maybe I want to get an advanced degree in what I already do, you got to do a little bit of research. I know that in general, right, if you have an undergraduate degree in the finance world or in like financial planning versus a graduate level degree, that's probably not as valuable as like experience. Have you actually been out there in the field working? I think in education, though, there is a bit like if you go get an advanced degree. I know I have a lot of friends that were teachers or administrators back in Georgia. As soon as they went and got that second advanced degree, it was an immediate change to their salary. So you need to understand in your career field, if you go back and do that advanced degree, what is the ROI and what timeline will that happen on to help decide maybe is it worth it or is it not worth it?
That's one of my pet peeves, by the way. Is that I always thought before I created this platform that lets me talk to hundreds of thousands of you every month.
Sure.
So I get the last laugh because you guys are essentially my students without me having the doctorate's degree. I've got a doctorate in life.
I love it.
But if
PhD in life.
I originally thought that I wanted to be a college professor. I mean, that's one of the reasons that inspired me to start doing this podcast. You guys realize I don't think they'd want Brian Preston because I just have a bachelor's in business administration with a focus on accounting.
Not highly educated
I don't have the
enough.
master's. I don't have the doctorate. How crazy is that?
It seems out there.
When if you want to know how to be the best financial planner, we create Beast. This is the place you want to be.
Yep.
And yet somehow in academia, I'm
not viewed that
considered
way.
lesser because of where my degree stopped.
Yep.
I don't know. It's just an observation
Seems
I
a little
think is
flawed.
interesting.
So again, you need to understand your industry and understand what that ROI is. Taylor, that was a great question. This is a really good one. This is from Carolyn. If you're unsure if your kiddos are going to college or not, do you recommend traditional investing instead of a 529?
No, because 529s have gotten so. Because look, there's going to probably be a desire, even if you don't go to traditional college, you're going to go to some type of trade school to get some type of skill set. You can use 529 money for that, and you can also use 529. Realize your kids can pass it down to their kids, or you can pass it down to one of their siblings. There's all kind of flexibility. So I don't want parents, as long as you, by the way, made it through the financial order of operations, because remember, your kids can get student loans. You can't get a retirement loan, so make sure you're getting the financial order of operations right. But it is one of those things where I want people to feel comfortable using 529s. They not only can be used for K through 12 now, they can also be used for college, it can be used for trade schools. And think about this, like I have a special needs child. I can transition the 529 I started when she was a baby into her ABLE account for her special needs savings. All those things, there's lots of flexibility in that preferred savings vehicle, plus the tax benefits.
I get asked this question all the time by clients, and I always go this direction. Okay, let's talk about the worst case scenario. You save a lot of money to 529. It grows. Your kid doesn't go to school, doesn't go to trade school. There's no siblings, no one to pass it down to. So the worst case scenario is you got to pull that money out and use it for non-educational expenses. Well, remember, the only thing that gets the tax and penalty are the earnings that are in the account. So even if you put in $100,000 of your money into the account, when you go to pull that $100,000 out, you don't pay any taxes or penalties on the money you put in. It's only on the earnings. So it's kind of thinking about it with house money. So it's not that big of a risk when you think about funding. Now, you don't want to go crazy and way overfund if you know that your child's not going to go to school, but I don't think you need to be scared of it if you're thinking, oh, well, I might overfund.
And I want to flip the script. What if your kid's LeBron?
Yeah.
You save all this money, and then your kid gets a full ride for academics or
a full ride to the
athletics,
NBA.
or athletics. Well, I guess that's right. He didn't even go to college. So that's a horrible example. Let me put an example that has the talent of LeBron but wants to go get the college degree. You can use 529 assets. You can pull the money out if your kids get scholarships. You still will pay income taxes, but you won't pay any penalties on pulling that money out because they have provisions for even because we always go the negative route. But what if your kid actually gets a full ride for academics or athletics? There's a way to get those 529 assets. It's not as tax favored because you are going to pay income taxes, but it still allows you to pull that money out without penalty.
Love it. All right, I've got two 21-year-olds that I'm about to ask these questions for. There's two different questions. Here's the first one.
These are 21-year-olds that are watching the live stream?
21-year-olds in the live stream.
Man, it makes me so happy.
So this is from GUI Sporting. I guess maybe that's right. I might have butchered that. All right. When I got my emergency fund, what should I do next? I'm 21 with no debt. Brian, if I was a young person starting out and I was trying to figure out what to do with my dollars, and I kind of want an instruction manual to know where to put those dollars, what resource might be available for me to answer that question?
I'd first go to moneyguy.com/resources and check out the free financial order of operation. Because, look, if you got your emergency reserves covered,
I don't have it on the screen. Is there a way
want
we
me
might
to hold it?
Oh,
You're
there we go.
making me.
There we go. It's on his desk.
Look at
there
this. Bo asked me to do it. I move. How high? But it's Roth IRA. But first of all, two things. Roth IRA, health savings account. Because both of those are tremendously tax favored. But without a doubt, if you're 21 years old, you have emergency reserves already covered, meaning you will keep your financial life out of the ditch. Get those tax-free assets going ASAP so that army of dollar bills, the compounding growth, the exponential growth is all going to be completely tax-free in the future.
I love it. I love it. And here's another thing I'll tell you. In addition to going to the resource page and looking at the financial order of operations, I would encourage you to download another resource called how powerful are my dollars? Because what this is going to show at 21 years old, every dollar, not the ones that you put into the emergency fund, but every dollar that you can put into the Roth IRA or the HSA, or if you have an employer, your 401k, it's going to show you just how powerful every one of those dollars can be. That will get you excited, because I think to myself, instead of going to buy that dollar coffee, I can take that dollar, invest it, and it will turn into $88, so then I can buy really fancy coffee when I'm retired. That's a pretty exciting proposition. So I'd encourage you to look at those two resources. Great place to start. Here was the other question from the other 21-year-old. So Ryan said, what should I use as an investment vehicle if I've already maxed out my Roth IRA and my employer doesn't offer a 401k? 21 years old, low tax bracket things. No 401k, and I've already maxed my Roth. Well, I'm going to assume, Ryan, if you've already maxed out your Roth IRA, I'm hoping you've kind of followed through the financial order of operations. You've covered your deductibles. There is no 401k, so there's no match. You don't have any high interest debt sitting out there. You've done your tax-free. What's next after
Hyperaccumulation. I mean, go ahead and open up an individual brokerage account. Start buying those growth. You can buy growth mutual funds. You know, when I'm talking about like indexed target retirement funds, total market indexes, depending, you know, all those things, you can buy those in an individual account. You're still going to get favored tax rates like long-term capital gains, especially if you're buying index funds. They're very tax efficient naturally. Go out there and make that money work. Go load up, obviously, the things that our favorite taxing Uncle Sam is going to give you, like the Roth IRAs, the health savings accounts. But then there's no shame in the going ahead and building up that after-tax brokerage account so that you have maximum liquidity. Because here's the thing that's also great. That account, because it's liquid, you could always get access to it to go invest in other things. You know, if that deal of a century on a piece of real estate down in the future, or a house down payment, or life changes and you want to invest in a business, that account's going to be one of the easiest accounts to get access to, with some of the lowest taxes on the gains from the capital gains rate. So
I love it.
Really cool stuff.
And again, if you're trying to figure out what do I do even at that step and beyond, go check out the Financial Order of Operations. Free resource on the website, or you can even check out the course, which is live and available for all of you out there.
Yeah, and think about it. When that 21-year-old turns into a 33-year-old at some point, and then you at that point when you graduate to complexity, you can still like use that for charitable planning and giving. I mean, there's really cool stuff that you get to geek out on. If you just start 21 years of age, you're going to be a beast of saving at that opportunity.
All right, here is the next question. This is a good one. This is from Jordan. I actually don't know your answer. I like when I ask you questions that I don't know what your answer is going to be. But this is what Jordan said. Well, he didn't actually say this. I'm gonna paraphrase because all he did was just put words. I'm assuming his question is, should I get an MBA or a master's in finance? Which one of those advanced degrees is better? Here's what I would do if I were in your circumstance. And I'm not sure if you're a college student or if you're working. If you're a college student, I think about, okay, what do I want to do? What career field, what vocation do I want to go into? And I'd start talking to those potential employers and say, hey, I'm thinking about getting an advanced degree. Which one would you recommend I pursue? So again, begin with the end in mind, figure out what a potential employer might want you to do. If you're already working and you're thinking about getting an advanced degree while you're working, I'd go ask your boss. Hey, I'm thinking about either doing an MBA or getting my master's in finance. Well, if you're at a financial planning firm, they might say, hey, don't do either one of those. Go get your CFP. Go pursue. You ought to think about, it's not, okay, which one's better. It's which one's better for your specific circumstance.
My answer was similar in the fact that, but it was just this simple. What's the why of the situation? Begin with the end in mind, and the fact that both of those things that he mentioned, I was like, is this person trying to go sit for the CFP exam? If it is, maybe you don't go get either one of those degrees. You just go take one of the online learning opportunities so you're eligible to sit for the CFP exam. I need to know what the why is, because I will tell you, like we had an internship program this summer, and one of the interns was going to go back to get their master's, and I asked her about it, and it sounded great because there was some, if she student taught, a lot of it was going to be subsidized.
That's right.
And that made it very affordable. But then the funding, because of COVID, was starting to look like it was questionable. I think that's when you have to go, should I go run up student loan
why
debt
should I go get debt
to do
for that?
this? I mean, if it's subsidized or free, That's one thing, kind of like if you have a scholarship. But if you know that at the end of the day you're going to be responsible for paying this money back, because by the way, you will pay this money back. They've written the laws to where you don't get rid of student loan debt.
right.
It's so every time you sign up for a student loan, I want you to pretend that you all first had to prick your finger and they're making you sign it in blood, because it needs to be that painful, because you will pay this money back.
Yep.
So treat it accordingly. It's not like you can go on a bender with a credit card and you can, always file bankruptcy or get yourself out. It doesn't work
get rid of
that
it like
way
that.
with
Nope.
student loan debt. You can't shake this.
Yep.
So treat it accordingly. And I just, if you're going to get your master's, make sure that it's actually going to create a return on investment. It's back to the same question that we started this entire episode with. Is there a return on investment? What's the why? And be very scared. If you're not scared when you're dealing with student loan debts and other things, you're doing it wrong. It's kind of like the whole coffee versus the car loan discussion. You see people all the time that will do blog posts talking about quit going to Starbucks, quit getting the latte, but then they're disregarding that a lot of people are going out there right out of college and buying a Lexus
Yep.
or a Mercedes and getting them, and having a $600 a month car payment, $700 car payment. It's not the latte that's blowing up
That's
your
right.
life. It's the stupid decisions like the car purchase that eats you alive to where you can't save. It's kind of the same way they ran off the credit card vendors who were, getting you to sign up for a bag of potato chips, who were giving you at the time those $1,500 credit cards. Meanwhile, now we've let kids run up $100,000 student loan debt. Which one's going to eat you alive? I would tell you to be very scared of the student loan debt.
That's right. Guys, thank you so much for letting us come here, letting us do this show, letting us share with you, letting us answer your questions. If you've not had a chance to go check out the Financial Order of Operations course, it went live as of October 1st, so make sure you go to learn.moneyguy.com if you want to do a deeper dive into the FOO. If you've not checked out the websites, we've been doing some new stuff. We've been adding some new pictures, doing some new stuff. Go check out moneyguy.com or aboundwealth.com. You can kind of see what it is that we do and how we do it on a day-to-day basis.
By the way, the private Facebook group,
Oh,
boom,
yeah.
man,
yeah.
it's doing incredibly well. We're putting out some private content. I know we also have a private live stream we're going to be coming up with some
That's
Q&A
exactly right.
time. So, man, the FOO has been great.
It's been fun. It's been a lot of fun.
I love that we have a path for those that, like the 21-year-olds, go get the free downloadable resource. But somebody who maybe you've got some life decisions going on, that life is a lot more complicated, as well as you need a nudge, you need a coach, you need data worksheets. We got a path for both people, and I love that, because this is supposed to be foundational knowledge to accelerate your success, speed up the abundance cycle. So the quicker I can turn you successful, the quicker you'll probably say, who do I need to work
Love
with?
it.
Oh, it's going to be those guys that planted all the seeds 7 years ago.
That's exactly right.
That's why this thing, it's a win-win.
Win-win. Also, if you have not subscribed to the YouTube channel, make sure you do that. We're at 84,500 followers right now. We are trying to get to 100,000 before the close of 2020.
It's going to be close.
So make sure that you go subscribe, ring the bell, and invest in the like button. That's what people keep coming back to. Invest in the like button. Yeah, Reeby's shaking her head. That ain't it. Give us a really good call to action of what you should do to the like button. And we just thank you so much for letting us do this. We love you guys. We'll be back very shortly.
Money Guy team, out. I love